Hi guys, welcome to this new video. Today I'm gonna do some maintenance in my balcony garden, sort of a late spring, early summer maintenance. I have a couple of really neglected, overgrown perennials that need to be rejuvenated. Then a couple of plants need repotting, a couple of plants need some little trimming. I'm gonna water and fertilize everything, and as per usual, share a couple of tips and tricks with you along the way. So why don't we start first with repotting? Okay, first I need to grab a bag of soil. They are all here because it was really windy these past couple of days, and I found a new technique to keep my Japanese maple from falling over. I place bags of soil around the pot to keep it sturdy, and actually it works. So just need to grab one of those. Okay, so I need to repot my carex grass because the pot fell over in the wind and cracked, and now I can't even water it properly because the water is coming out of the pot before the soil can actually absorb any moisture. And I wanted to really quickly talk about repotting plants because I saw a comment on my Instagram that kind of prompted me to talk about repotting. So I saw a comment that said something like, I have not repotted my plant for several years. It's clearly pot bound, it's really struggling, it's not blooming, it's not doing well, but I will have to wait until autumn to repot it. And I think that's a really common misconception, that you can only repot your plants either in the spring or in the fall, and that these are your two windows of opportunities, and if you miss that first window, spring, you have to wait all the way until autumn to be able to repot your plants. And that's actually not true. You can repot your plants pretty much year round. I mean, except for the extremes of temperatures, like you're not gonna repot your plants like in the heat of summer or in the middle of winter when the temperatures are below freezing. But other than that, you can repot your plants pretty much year round, especially if your plant is struggling. Because think about this, if your plant is struggling right now and we're mid-June, it's gonna continue to struggle all the way until June, and then July, August, September. So over the course of those several months, the health of your plant will slowly start to decline more and more and more. And you arrive in autumn, you are ready to repot your plant, but your plant will be in really poor condition. So even if you repot it in autumn, the plant will soon enter dormancy, and then it will not have enough time to bounce back. So it will enter winter as a very weak and very unhealthy plant, and obviously the weaker the plant, the more risk that it will not survive winter because it's more susceptible to any weather conditions. So if your plant is struggling right now, repot it right away, because now it still has enough time to bounce back, to to rejuvenate throughout summer. Keep it well watered, keep it well fertilized, and give it an opportunity to actually bounce back. So let's pop this one out. Okay, I'm gonna shake off that old soil because honestly I don't remember when was the last time I repotted this grass. A little bit pot bound as well. So I'm placing a mesh hole pad at the bottom of the drainage hole. This prevents the soil from coming out of the pot, but still allows water to pass through easily. And then for all of my herbaceous perennials, I use a mix of multi-purpose potting mix with added perlite, and I add a generous amount of compost. I mix it all together, and I already have a mix kind of prepared in this soil bag. I like to add organic matter to all of my planters because organic matter not only helps to retain water and nutrients in the soil, but it also is a form of slow release nutrients. As it decomposes over time, it releases nutrients to the soil, and it's really, really great for your plants. And by the way, this plant is not dead, it's very much alive. I know that some people don't like these carex grasses because they look kind of like a dead grass, but I really, really like the look of these plants, especially in the fall. I like to use them in fall compositions and fall arrangements. But yeah, I really, really like these grasses, even though they don't look like much. Okay, so after repotting, obviously don't forget to water your plants. I'm gonna water everything at the end. And if you're repotting your plants in summer when it's already really warm, keep your plants in partial shade, at least for the first couple of weeks, and keep them well watered, and they'll be totally fine, don't worry about it. Okay, the next plant that needs repotting slash serious rejuvenating is this heuchera. It's one of my oldest heucheras, and heucheras are like one of my favorite plants for container gardens because they are really easy to grow and they also have many seasons of interest. For example, in the spring they produce these beautiful bell-shaped flowers that attract pollinators, and then they come in many different leaf colors. You can really find any color that you like, and those leaves are evergreen, so these plants don't die to the ground level in the fall like many other perennial plants do. They keep their foliage throughout winter, providing a beautiful interest. They are pretty winter hardy as well. They are hardy down to zone 4. And what's great about them is that they can be grown either in full sun, partial shade, or full shade. Those that have darker leaves can be grown in more sunny areas, and those that have paler leaves are better suited for shady gardens. And this is how heuchera should look when it's at its prime. They create this beautiful mound of foliage. This one is one of my youngest heucheras. It's a silver gumdrop and it's looking absolutely perfect. But this one is my oldest heuchera. It's called Black Pearl, and well, definitely not at its prime. Definitely needs some serious maintenance. Okay, so the first thing that I will do to rejuvenate this plant is I'm gonna remove all of those dead leaves. So as I said, heucheras are evergreen, so it means they don't drop their leaves in the fall, but as the plant produces new leaves, the older leaves, these ones at the bottom, they start to die and they start to look very unattractive. So I'm just gonna pull it all. You don't even need to use any pruners. It's really easy to remove them all by hand. So just gonna show you here from up close, when you have young heucheras, this is how the plant will look like, just basically fresh, beautiful foliage, right? That's the center of the plant. But as the plant matures, it starts to produce woody base. It will have this really kind of like thick stems. And this can make your plant look really unattractive because instead of growing in a nice mound, it will kind of start to produce like branches and make the overall shape of the plant a little bit, well, not as attractive as this, right? So there's two ways you can fix it. And my preferred way to fix it, something I would do at the beginning of the year in the spring, is I would prune the plant almost all the way until the base of the plant. I've done this with several other heucheras and they bounce back pretty rapidly within a couple of months. So I would normally just prune it all the way down here and allow the plant to regenerate. But because it's already mid-season, I'm not gonna do it right now. So the second option that I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna take the plant out of its pot. Try to do it gently, not to break it. I'm gonna remove the excess soil a little bit from it. And now I'm gonna repot it into the same pot, but I'm gonna bury it a little bit deeper to cover a little bit of that woody base. I probably added a little bit too much soil. Let's see. You know, I'm actually gonna trim a little bit this side here because it's really way too large. You could take it and try to root it in. Heucheras root in pretty well. I've had vine weevil grubs eat the whole root system of many of my heucheras. They didn't look much better than this, and I rooted them in water and they bounced back and grew beautifully. Like this one didn't have any roots left on it, and look how massive it regrew. So, looking a little bit better now that the dead leaves are removed, that it's repotted into fresh soil. It's gonna, you know, produce new fresh leaves. It's gonna look a little bit fuller in a couple of weeks. So, here again, I'm gonna water it at the end with all the other plants. And while I'm here, I also need to take care of my fern. I see a lot of dead and dried fronds at the bottom, so let's do it. So this fern is really amazing because it's actually evergreen. So unlike other ferns that die down to the ground level, this one keeps its foliage throughout winter and provides beautiful pop of greenery. It's called Polysticum polyblepharum, but it's not very winter hardy. It's only hardy down to zone 6. Many ferns have the reputation of being a little bit tricky to grow because they need consistent moisture, but this one is pretty drought tolerant, and I think I water it like maybe once a week when I remember. So if you live in zone 6 and above, definitely recommend getting one of those. There you go. Look at this one massive head on my new hydrangea. It's a hydrangea arborescens from the Bella Ragazza series, and I ordered Blanchetta or Blanchetta, and I believe I received Limetta because it's lime green and not white, but it's beautiful nonetheless. But it just has like one massive flower head because all the other branches were either in the wind or slugs ate them. But really enjoying this one, really pretty. Okay, so now I need to do a little bit of trimming. I'm gonna trim this beautiful bay laurel, and this is my oldest plant. It's been with me for the past, I think, 8 years at least. Someone actually gifted it to me as a teeny tiny cutting. It was just like this small. If I find the picture, I'll pop it on the screen because you wouldn't believe it. But it was super tiny, so I've had it for the past like 8 years, I think, and I trained it into this beautiful topiary. So now, usually once a year, I give it a light trim just to, to keep it in a nice and tidy bowl form. And because bay laurels are also edible, I always collect all the trimmings and I dry them and I use them for cooking. So that's kind of a win-win situation because it serves both as a beautiful ornamental plant, but also as an edible plant. Okay, I'm actually gonna bring it here because there's not enough space over there. Alright, so the first thing I need to do is to remove these suckers. Usually plants that are trained either into topiaries or standards, they tend to produce a ton of suckers at the bottom. So you need to keep up with pruning these if you want your plant to look neat and tidy. Okay, and it's done. If you are interested in growing bay laurels in containers yourself, you can find a complete tutorial, complete care guide on my channel. I talk about every aspect of growing bay laurels in containers, but generally they're pretty easy to grow and they grow really well in full sun and in partial shade. In my balcony garden, I think it receives maybe like 3 hours of sunlight, and as you can see, it's doing perfectly fine. And just one little tip here: if you're gonna pick the leaves for cooking, pick those older leaves, those more thick leathery leaves. They have better flavor and aroma than those very young and succulent leaves. They don't even dry very well, they shrivel, so those older leaves are definitely better for cooking. Alright, this is my little harvest. This is plenty enough for me for the whole year. I'm gonna let it dry, and by the way, I'm saving that part of hukra that I pruned, put it in a glass of water. Okay, so just a quick break before I water and fertilize everything. I always get asked about fertilizers, what I use, how I use it, and I actually made a whole video about it. Like, I show you everything that I use in my garden, I tell you how it works, what it's meant for, how to use these products. And it's funny because that video didn't get a lot of views, but then I get a ton of questions always about fertilizers. So if you guys haven't seen this and you would like to learn a little bit more about fertilizers in general, and then exactly what I use and how I use it at different times of the year, I will have that video linked in the description box. But just as a quick recap, this is my kind of base plant care routine, and this is what I think everyone needs in their garden. Like, if you have these two fertilizers, you can fertilize pretty much any plant. So first I have Alga Grow. This is an organic fertilizer, algae-based fertilizer for the growth phase. So it's rich in nitrogen because nitrogen is a mineral that your plant needs the most when it's actively growing, when it's developing, when it's producing new fresh leaves. So you can use this fertilizer for all houseplants, all plants that are in the growth phase, when they are putting out leafy growth, all of your foliage plants, your conifers, your trees, basically everything that's growing but not blooming or not blooming yet. So for example, if you have some flowering shrubs that bloom, let's say by the end of summer, at the beginning of the year, spring, summer, you can fertilize it with a grow fertilizer. And then once that plant starts to produce flower buds, you switch to alga bloom or to any other bloom fertilizer, because this is rich in potassium and phosphorus, which are the two minerals that your plant needs the most once it starts to produce flowers. And both of these fertilizers, as I said, can be used on pretty much any plant, both ornamental and edible. Okay, so here in the shady garden, this is a perfect example because all of these plants, as you can see, they are foliage plants. So technically they're all in the growth phase. None of them is blooming, so they're all getting alga grow. And then stuff like hydrangeas that are already in full bloom, as you can see, these are getting obviously alga bloom to encourage more flowers. But here is a good example of when I switch from grow to bloom. Here are my snapdragons that I grew from seeds. So once these plants started to produce the first set of true leaves, when they were just teeny tiny seedlings, I already started to fertilize them with alga grow to encourage more leafy growth, to encourage them to grow and develop healthy. And now when they started to produce first flower buds, as you can see, this is the moment when I switch from alga grow to alga bloom to encourage more flowers. Okay, you guys, thanks so much for joining me today for this balcony garden maintenance. Hope you guys have a beautiful day and we'll see each other in the next video. Bye!